generations to come.
Welcome to another edition of the TDN Writers Room. I'm Zoe Cadman, filling in for Bill, who's feeling a little bit under the weather. I am in glorious OBS in Ocala right now, but perhaps not as glorious as Randy Moss. Randy, where are you?
I'm not feeling under the weather, Zoe. I'm in Cabo for a little short respite before the Kentucky Derby grind begins in a couple of weeks. I'm Randy Moss, by the way, with NBC Sports. Ready to roll, even though I'm here in paradise.
When I'm coming back in my next life, I'm coming back as Randy Moss or his dog. I'll be quite happy. How's your dog surviving without you?
Lucy has a good life. My daughter Hallie is at home with Lucy, taking care of Lucy while we're gone. So she is doing a very good daughterly deed.
All right, well, let's get right into it. And let's talk about the Grade 1 Apple Blossom last weekend. A lot of people there. It looked like a monster crowd on hand for the Grade 1 Apple Blossom. Torpedo Anna did not disappoint. She just seems to go through the motions and do everything right. And I took down some of the splits for the race, Randy. To me, it looked like she won the race in the third quarter because they absolutely slowed it down. 23-2, 24-2. 26-2, lulled them to sleep, and she skedaddled.
Look, Free Like a Girl is a pretty decent horse. Free Like a Girl, gave Torpedo Anna a little bit of a tussle in the Azeri Stakes before Torpedo Anna put her away. And I think Torpedo Anna is one of these kind of horses, Zoe, that I tend to believe most of the time, 95% of the time, when people look at a horse that doesn't run particularly fast numbers and they say, oh, this horse just runs as fast as they need to run, I think most of the time that's BS, right? But with Torpedo Anna, I think there's enough evidence to suggest that she may be one of those kinds of horses. I mean, you look at the way she stepped up when she ran against Fierceness in Sierra Leone in the Travers Stakes last year. And ran like a 105 Beyer speed figure when she was in against horses that were better than her, probably, right? But although, she might have been able to win that race with the better trip. And then she beats horses that she's 1-10 against, and she beats them. And she beats them by daylight usually, but she doesn't exactly wow people. And I think that was probably what a lot of analysts are going to say about the Apple Blossom. She got a 93 Beyer speed figure. That's typically not your horse of the year type Beyer speed figures. And maybe that's going to encourage some other horsemen to take a shot against her the next time she runs, wherever she runs down the road. But she just seems to just kind of go into cruise control until she needs that third quarter, like you mentioned, that punch. And then she puts the competition away and just does what she's got to do.
Well, Kenny McPeak was bullish. Walking down the steps in his interview, he's like, we're running back in 3 weeks in the La Trienne. She didn't win by too far. That's the plan. That's where she's going. So, he wants to show her off on Oaks Day, right? It's the right thing to do.
Sure.
But who's going to run against her?
Well, I think that there may be more horses that sign up to run against her, especially on Derby weekend, than you might otherwise expect for a horse with her credentials, just looking at her wins and losses or overall race record. Maybe I'm going to be wrong about this. Maybe it's going to be a 4 or 5 horse field. But, if I'm another owner and I look and I see a 93 Beyer speed figure and I've got a filly that, that can run, that has been running a little faster than that, I'm thinking, maybe she's vulnerable. Maybe I can catch Torpedo Anna here. She's been running against weak competition. Maybe I can take a shot against her. So we'll see.
I know of one. I texted Buffett this morning. Cavallari is going to run in the La Trienne. So
there you go. Yeah.
That's good. We'll have to wait and see. So it looks like that's where Torpedo Anna is going. Let's move on and talk about Keeneland and Carl Spackler. Fabian Pratt, of course, was subbing for Tyler Gaffleon. Remind me the name of the race. I can't remember.
Maker's Mark.
Maker's Mark Mile. It looks like he's come back better than ever. He's just such a fun horse to watch. Pratt's got the magic button. He knew where to find it. He was a little worried, apparently, that he'd actually pressed the button too soon some of the people watching the major connections are worried he pressed it too late, but he's got a hell of a turn of foot, does he not?
Oh, man, and he showed it off at the 5/16 pole when he just rocketed by horses 3 or 4 wide around the turn. And those were some pretty good horses that he was leaving for dead up there, right? And I agree with you that as good as Carl Spackler was as a 3-year-old and especially as a 4-year-old, he didn't run his best race in the Breeders' Cup Mile. It looked to me like he's not only come back as good as he was, but he may even be coming back better than he was. He's a 5-year-old now. You got to love the name, among other things, right? Carl Spackler, Bill Murray, right? But I thought he was awesome in victory, and it's going to be a lot of fun to watch him run as the year continues.
What kind of number would he have run?
I think he ran a 102, which is kind of comparable to what he had been running last year in some of his better races. But I think pretty much anybody who watched the Maker's Mark Mile has to walk away from it with the opinion that he probably could have run even faster if he needed to, because he had that race. Once he made that move at the 5/16 pole, I mean, he had that race locked up at about the 3/16 pole when he was 3 or 4 lengths in front at that point. And then I don't want to say he coasted in, but he didn't have that much competition.
Best name in horse racing, and certainly the most fun to watch right now. The Grade 1 Jenny Wiley was on Sunday as well. Choiset, I think is how you pronounce it, for Simon Crisford, won that, but not without, should there have been an inquiry? Because I think there should have been.
I think there probably should have been an inquiry. I agree with the steward's decision not to take her down. I thought she was clear enough when she drifted out at the 8th pole or the 16th pole or wherever it was. I don't blame Flavian for claiming foul and taking a shot. I don't think the outcome of the race would have been changed, but there probably should have been a steward's inquiry. This is a filly that has just all of a sudden absolutely blossomed. She came from Dubai, and by the way, I think it's fantastic that it's not just Charlie Appleby now that's seeing the benefit of bringing some of these horses to the United States and running them in Grade 1 races, but off European form, in this case, Dubai form. Simon Crisford now is starting to pick up on that as well, and that's only good for American racing. But in her last 2 starts in Dubai, the Cape Verde, she ran against a very good filly of Appleby's and Godolphin's and beat her convincingly by 5 lengths, right? And then in her last race in the Balanchine Stakes, she ran against Cinderella's Dream, who was a heavy favorite in that race. And if you recall, and I know you recall, Zoe, if the viewers recall, she could have been the best horse in the Breeders' Cup Filly and Mare Turf last year. She ran against Moira, and Moira got a better trip than Cinderella's Dream did, I thought. And they were close at the wire, but Cinderella's Dream is that good. And in the Balanchine, they separated themselves from the field, and they ran like a Ferndon Aladar for the last 3/16, quarter of a mile, opened up, I think, 8 lengths on the competition, which is hard to do on the grass. And she just doggedly kept in front of Cinderella's Dream. She got a 100 Beyer speed figure in the Jenny Wiley. So I think Choiwa, or however you want to say her name, is right now a real top-of-the-line racehorse whose star is ascending, as they say.
Choisier, I think.
Choisier,
we played it over and over before we came on. I said to Sue, I'm like, how do we say this?
It's a flower. It's an African flower, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay, so well done to Simon Crisford, because he is one of the most underrated trainers anywhere, and certainly in the Godolphin stable. So she was certainly very, very exciting to watch. And a great ride there by Louis Sayers, hugging the rail the whole way. Probably many thanks to Frankie for letting him out at the right spot as well. That's to open like the Red Sea.
She did get a great trip, yes.
Yeah, you can't buy that trip in Sainsbury's. You certainly can't. All right, the TDN Writers Room is brought to you by Keeneland. Supplemental entries are still being accepted for Keeneland's April Selected Horses of Racing Age sale. That's going to be held on Friday, April the 25th, at the conclusion of the day's races. It's strategically positioned at the end of the spring meet and just before Derby week. The April sale gathers the industry's top owners, trainers, and bloodstock agents in one central location. This competitive buying bench, coupled with a catalog of proven and ready-to-run thoroughbreds, create the perfect opportunity for buyers to secure talent for the summer season. Certainly a good place to be.
Leslie's Rose, Sierra, Leon.
Mike, $5 million. Thank you.
Carl Spackler, Immersive. She feels pretty. Hup.
And this week, our fastest horse of the week is brought to you by Timberlake, one of those fast sires at Windstar Farm. At Windstar, they like to call Timberlake stand-alone talent, and for good reason. He's the only son of Into Mischief, standing at stud, to be a TDN Rising Star, a Grade 1 winner as a 2-year-old, a graded stakes winner in his 3-year-old debut, and a TDN Silver Value sire. Timberlake right now is standing in his very first season at Windstar Farm, and his fee is quite affordable in these particular conversations, $20,000. Now, fastest horse of the week. People who have been watching the sprint division for a couple of years are no doubt familiar with the horse in Steve Asmussen's barn by the name of Skelly, who nearly won the big Saudi Arabian sprint last year. Well, Skelly made his comeback last week in an allowance race at Oaklawn Park, and boy, was he impressive. At one point, I think he was like 9 lengths in front of the field as they were approaching the top of the stretch, drew off, won in, I think, 109.27 for 6 furlongs. And for that race, Skelly got a buyer speed figure, career high, 107. So he not only came back strong. And Skelly, what Skelly has been noted for throughout much of his career, despite the fact that he's got blazing early speed, his first steps from the gate are typically not very fast. He tends to break a little bit sluggishly and then rushes up. This time, he broke like a shot. He was on the lead before a 16th of a mile. And so you saw what happened the rest of the way. So Skelly is back, and he's back in good form. And Skelly is our fastest horse of the week.
And I'll tell you what, Randy, it was really cool to listen to the interview. Steve's son, Eric, rode him. So Maggie Morley interviewed him after the race on the pony there. And he's so well-spoken, for one, like Steve is, and all his kids are. But, you know, listening to him saying that he grew up with Matoli in the barn, and for him to get a stakes win on a son of Matoli and just working him in the morning, it was just really cool to hear that they're having such a good time. Like, Steve, if you ever want to get Steve Asmussen to talk to you and you're like just trying to find a way into his barn, just ask him how the kids are and how they're doing. He'll talk to you for 20 minutes because he's so proud, and rightly so. Eric's a Clips Award-winning jockey now. How he maintains his weight, I'll never know because he's about 6 foot tall. But he rode a really good race.
He did. He rode an outstanding race, and it's Steve's obviously a great guy and obviously a good father, and very, very proud of his kids. I agree.
And now it is time for the Gainesway Guest of the Week. Very happy to bring in Umberto Rispoli. Umberto, how are you today? It's just me and you. I'm afraid everyone else has taken the day off, so we'll just have to have a nice little chat together.
I'm happy to be here, Zoe. Thank you. Thanks, guys, for having me.
Before we jump into journalism and a couple of other horses we're going to talk about, we're on a little break from Santa Anita now. So what have you been doing? Have you been going to Keeneland, or have you been putting your feet up and watching the telly?
I actually come back last night at 1:00 from Kentucky. So it's been I've been almost 6 days over there. I was able to break my maiden at Keeneland finally. It takes me such a long time. And look, I had actually a good meet. A good week over there, meeting some nice people, and obviously talking about the Derby. And but look, I was just a little bit upset because Bullard's race didn't come up in the way we were expecting. But, we're going to regroup, and I'm pretty sure it's not the good horse than we saw the other day. So, it was coming off long layoff, and but I really enjoy my week at Keeneland.
Yeah, Keeneland's a beautiful place to be, especially, this time of year, if it is nice weather. Let's just talk about Bullard for a little bit, because a lot of people liked him going into that race. Did you feel maybe he came up a little short, or maybe he wants to go a little shorter?
No, I just think then it's a horse, then obviously it doesn't have much experience in races. The two times we won, obviously we went short, but the pace ahead of us was very crazy fast. So that's what makes him coming from a way back. And but I think it's a horse then probably he needs to get more closer. He changes mentality, he changes the way to work as well. Actually, when we worked him last Saturday before to ship him to Keeneland, I think it was probably his best work ever. We put him on the fence with the horse outside of him, and he never let the other horse go by him. So I think it's a horse then he probably needs to run a little bit closer. It's not that quick out of the gate, but it's a horse then is a one pace horse. I mean, of course, I'm saying that he come two times, looks like as a turn of foot, but definitely it's not. I think it's a horse then, gain some experience. This race is going to bring him up. 4 months layoff, he's shipped to the Rebel. He got fever. He's stuck over there. He has to coming back. So it's a lot of things are going on in his way. So, but I'm always confident. I like him since day one. And I can't wait to see him bounce back from that performance.
And of course, that was a Bullard running in the Lexington last weekend. Who'd you break your maiden for, by the way?
I break my maiden for John Ortiz.
Oh, fabulous.
Yes.
All right, well, let's get to the meat and the potatoes. Let's talk journalism. And tell us about your trip in the Santa Anita Derby. Was that perhaps the one you weren't looking for?
Well, not really.
Yeah.
Obviously, as I already said in my other interview, I wish I could draw wide, but seems that we saw the draw. We knew that it was it's supposed to be a dogfight. So I'm happy. Then the good things is when you ride a brave horse like him, an intelligent horse like him, things can change and could put you in a better spot. It's a horse then I've been saying that for the last 6 months. He's improving race by race. Definitely going to the half-mile pole, I knew that there wasn't the trip, and I had to figure it out how to come out from the rail. It wasn't easy, but as I said, I see that little gap between Westwood and Barnes. Then it was a start to getting tired around the turn, and I take that opportunity. Actually, was the only one opportunity to take. And look, once I was able to take him into the clear, he responded me pretty well, and he came. I could feel it around the turn. Then he started motoring like he always does, and it didn't take him much to go and buy Baeza. So once he took the lead, he kind of. I can understand he not really looking around, but he's a kind of horse that he understands. Once he passed the last horse, he knows how when the job is done. So extremely happy with this race.
What kind of feel does he give you in his races? Because he seems like the horse that you can do just about anything you want with.
The good of him is then he's been better in the gate, which, as I said, I have to give a credit to Michael, because he keeps schooling him in the gate. He's actually a horse that he doesn't really like to stay longer in there. It's a big boy, and but he's been breaking good. And, going on a mile and a quarter, that's probably what do you need. It's a horse that then is going to put you in a good spot coming out of the gate. We know then the start of the Kentucky Derby could be always a mess, but with a horse like him, which is a powerful, it's a big horse. With horses like him, you're capable to find a good spot to whatever and go into the first turn and set up your race see where the other contenders are. And it's pretty much this, going a mile and a quarter. He's going to do this for the first time in his life, like everybody else. And look, hopefully we're gonna draw better than the one this time. But I'm extremely, extremely happy, excited. I'm honestly, Joe Talamo gave me an interview 2 days ago, and he asked me, say, how did you feel right now? I say, listen, so far I just been focused about the rides I have right now, because, it would be disrespectful just to bring your mind like 3 weeks from now to Churchill Down and not be focused about what happened race by race right now. So once that week is gonna come to us, I don't know. So far, I just feel happy. Then probably I find a great horse in my life. Definitely, I think he's the best dirt horse I ever ridden. No doubt about it. Even because it's only 5 years. I'm in United States, but even having some experience in Japan, in Hong Kong, in Italy, where we have dirt racing, but obviously not as good as American races. I'm glad to be in this position. I'm pretty sure there is other 100 riders than they would love to ride him going to the Kentucky Derby. So, as I said, I'm happy, I'm calm, I'm relaxed, I'm quiet. The adrenaline is gonna come in. You can't hide this, But in the meantime, when I was the kid of 8 years old, chasing his dream to be to be a great rider one day, to be competing with the best rider around the world, and be going to ride the first favorite of the Kentucky Derby, it could be and wishing to win the Derby. It could be a dream come true. And I just say to myself, then there has to be no fear in there. There has to be no scare. You just have to enjoy the moment. The scare is fear and scare. It's people then struggling with a job, struggling to bring money home every month to feed the family. That's what probably scares you. But going to ride the first favorite of the Kentucky Derby, you have to be excited and just enjoy the moment. That's it.
Is this where you imagine you'd be when you came full-time in 2020? Because you came into Santa Anita and Del Mar like a bear. Your first year in the country, you won 126 races, and it was all go. Everyone's like, who is this guy? Is this where you imagined you'd be 5 years on?
Well, I was in a really bad spot in 2019 when I was struggling a lot in Hong Kong. I was an underground, and I already said this in some other interviews. I come back after Happy Valley races one day, and I want to just quit. My brain was done. I was losing a lot of weight all the weekend. Every time I was going to ride the horses, it was a long shot, 50-1, and I coming back home and I'm saying, why I'm doing this? I mean, I'd be hard with myself. So I had to find something else. And, this Italian bloodstock agent, Marco Bozzi, said, why you don't try America? And then that's how I get in contact with Ron Anderson. And Ron was the first person to take me from Hong Kong to America. But when I first moved in December 2019, I was just full of energy, and I say, I'm going to prove everybody then. I have to prove everybody wrong, because I couldn't be like the jockey where I break a Frankie Dettori's record, Frankie's father's record in Italy of winners. I've been traveling all around the world. I've been winning races everywhere. You can't be just bad because one season takes you down. So I have to prove myself first. And I knew that I was a coming year. I was really hungry for winners. So, and the good thing is I really enjoyed the first rides I have at Santa Anita. I could feel right away that it was a good wedding between me and America. So I could adapt myself right away to American races. Coming from Hong Kong, it's not that different. It's a speed racing. You need to be quick out of the gate. It was pretty similar, just going obviously left and right handed. That was the only difference. But I've been riding left hand and right hand for all my life. So, And I'm glad I do well my first year, and that's what put me in the spot to keep doing well in those years. And with Matt Nakatani last year, I have my best year ever since I'm in the United States.
And you ride an awful lot for Michael McCarthy. Talk about your relationship with Michael, because he's got a very dry sense of humor, and you two just kind of bash off each other.
Look, some people think Michael, I always say Michael is like that. Michael goes to the work. He doesn't care about anybody. He wakes up in the morning. He knows that he has to do that job from that time, from 5 o'clock in the morning until 11, 10:30, until the time he's leaving the barn. He's like that. It's all about work. But out of that, he's one of the funniest person I ever met in my life. He has his own sense of humor. We understand each other's a lot. Don't take me wrong. We clash sometimes, but I think this is what, fortify, that's the right word, right? Our relationship, because I work a lot of horses for him, and I like to tell him the truth. Every time, sometimes when I think a horse doesn't work well, I feel then I have to tell him the truth. Sometimes, a horse can lose his shoes, horse can grab his feet. So there is a lot of things where in my education of horse racing, my boss always tell me, said, if you feel anything doesn't like to you with a horse, just be honest. And I've been like that for 20 years. So I think that's what probably Michael really appreciate about me. I always tell him the truth. Even if he's a good horse working, I'm gonna tell, and I didn't like the work. It's not that I'm always right, but we like to share the opinion, and we have one things in common. We want to really win races. We're really hungry for it. So it's good to have a relationship with a trainer supports you like that and gives you full confidence on his horses.
Can you tell me once more about Michael the horse and why you call journalism Michael?
With the Michaels, with the journalism. Well, I mean, he's like that. It's like so you see most of the time you walk in his office in the morning, he go like that. So he just don't even say hi to you, and that's journalism. You try to walk in the stall, tries to bite you, he push you out. So I think they really related. They look each other. They look similar. The animal and the trainer. So and it's funny though, when I told him, I say, this horse, it really looks like you. I like it. So from there, I start to call him a Michael.
That's so awesome. I got one more question for you quickly. Formidable Man looked fantastic winning the Kilroe Mile. That was probably one of the best rides I've seen you ever give, coming through on the inside with him. Did you ever have a question that you were never going to get through in the Grade 1 Kilroe Mile? I
would lie to you if I say no. I would lie. So around the turn, I had Jose with the nest outside of me. With the neat. Sorry, no nest. Neat outside of me, which is looking to don't let me out. But ahead of me, I could see then the two riders. They try to coming out, and from sometimes when you are three back defense, so you have a different vision. You can see better than the jockey that is ahead of you. So I could read the body language of one, and then he was trying to come out with Air Force Red. And then when I see from far, then Mike Smith was going left-handed. I say that's the only shot I have. So I try to make myself a little and try to go to that gap. And I would say actually the horse really, really respond well. I don't think I give him a good ride at the Pegasus. And I take a full responsibility for that. I tell Michael already. So I was too much intent to go to the lead because I thought that there was no speed. So the horse didn't run any well. He actually didn't really like a Gulfstream, but I like to take the blame for that race, and I have to give a credit to Michael. And we take off the blinkers, which I think he doesn't really needs that. It could be a really interesting 4 years old going for a nice campaign. So hopefully it's going to give us some other good memory.
Yeah, looks like we'll see him in the Grade 1 Shoemaker Mile. Okay, Umbi, well, thank you so much for your time. We'll see you back at Santa Anita, and go journalism. It's awesome.
Absolutely. Thank you, Zoe. Thanks, everybody. And special hi to Randy Moss.
Thank you very much, Umberto. I'm sorry I missed the interview. Umberto Rispoli, our guest of the week, brought to you by Gainesway, the home of Breeders' Cup champions Spun to Run from the legendary Danzig sire line. They say great milers make great stallions. You've heard that a lot. Spun to Run was definitely a great miler. His speed figures were among the best of his generation by any 3-year-old at a mile or more when he was a 3-year-old back in 2019. In the Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile, he beat some of the best horses of his generation, including Omaha Beach and Improbable. He concluded his sophomore season, get this, with 3 consecutive Beyer speed figures, 110, 109, and 105. And on Jerry Brown's Thoroughgraph figures, 5 of his 9 starts at 3-year-olds, he ran a 0. He's the fastest sire that is by hard spun. His first 3-year-olds are running this year, and he stands at Gainesway for a fee of $10,000. Gainesway, power, passion, performance.
Spun to Run. His brilliant speed figures were among the fastest of any 3-year-old at a mile or more, and he hails from the legendary Danzig sire line. Now, this multiple graded stakes winner, millionaire, and Breeders' Cup champion is passing his remarkable talent along to his progeny.
Night Beacon airs at the home of Spun to Run's Breeders' Cup victory.
Spun to Run, standing at Gainesway.
News now from the Eastern Seaboard. Trevor McCarthy is retiring. He is age 30. He's won 1,877 races. Now, he last rode on August the 15th. There was no fanfare about his retirement. He just slowly kind of sneaked off into the background. And I think this is what he wanted. Trevor, outwardly, like we dealt with him in Southern California. He came out for a couple of years, a couple of winters. Great guy. But he's just so tall. He's at least 5'9". He came out, he's a good rider, rides a very smart race, but for years he struggled with his weight, and that can lead to mental health problems. A couple of his good friends, Alex Conchari and Avery Witzman, unfortunately passed away in 2023, and it really brought, to the front and center mental health with not only jockeys, but a lot of people in the industry. And I think we need to do better and try to help people as well as we can. I know that Trevor has said that he's gone into real estate, and he simply put it, he just wasn't happy. He wasn't a happy person to be around. Now, if you know Trevor, you probably say you never see him had a bad day. And that's the kind of guy he is. But behind closed doors, I think he was just bloody miserable. So kudos to him for recognizing that and retiring and moving on. He's probably going to make an absolute fortune in real estate because he's a likable fella. So good luck to him. But it's something that needs to be talked about. Obviously, he might be a special case. Being as tall, he's going to have some problems watching his weight and being a jockey at the same time.
Yeah. Congratulations to Trevor McCarthy. Now he can eat breakfast and lunch and dinner and not have to worry about weighing in at 119 pounds or 120 pounds or whatever he actually was riding at. I don't know. Bill Finley had a great article in TDN about the struggles that Trevor McCarthy has gone through. You know infinitely more about this than I would, Zoe, but I mean, I would think being a jockey, even if you're, Pat Day sized, would be a stressful occupation just by its very nature. But as you pointed out, when you're starving yourself to try to stay in your chosen occupation, you're 5 feet 9 inches tall. You may actually be taller than that. I mean, imagine 5'9" and 117, 118 pounds, whatever he weighed. I mean, you talk about, if he was a surly guy behind closed doors, he was hungry. For Christ's sake, I mean, that's got to be just brutally tough when you combine that with the ordinary stress of being a jockey. So, I think it's fantastic now that he's in an occupation where he doesn't have to worry about that. And he can maybe help other riders, as he apparently wants to do, kind of get through some of the struggles that they may be having. And he'd be a great person to talk about his experiences firsthand.
An excellent spokesman for the job. He's going to try and work with HISA and the Jocks Guild as well. So wishing Trevor McCarthy The best. And, surprisingly enough, he said he doesn't really miss it. He can go out and see the horses, but obviously Katie's still riding and doing her own thing, but he's quite happy. So I'm delighted for him.
If he ever misses it, he can just sit down and cut into a steak, right? And then all of a sudden, and a baked potato and a Caesar salad and a chocolate pie for dessert, and he doesn't even have to worry about it. Yeah. The TDN Writers Room, brought to you by the PHBA, the Pennsylvania Horse Breeders Association. We've been taking you on a farm-by-farm tour of the Pennsylvania breeding industry. This week, we're going to double up with two farms, Timber Ridge Farm and Monte Cristo Farms. Let's start with Monte Cristo. It's home to Winchell. Winchell's the son of Tappet. Of course, Tappet's original owner was the late Vern Winchell. Winchell was Pennsylvania's leading sire of 2-year-olds in 2024 by both percentage of stakes winners and also average earnings per 2-year-old starter. And Winchell stands at Monte Cristo for $3,000. Now, Timber Ridge Farm. Timber Ridge Farm is home to a horse you may remember, the multiple stakes winning millionaire New York Traffic, who stands for $3,500. New York Traffic is the first son of Cross Traffic to stand stud in the Mid-Atlantic. And Monte Cristo is also home to Hopeful Treasure and True to the Moon, who each stand for fees of $1,000. To learn more, you can find a 2025 Stallion and Boarding Farm directory online at pabred.com, or you can call 610-444-1050.
PA Bred, I think we've built a brand at this point.
It's excitement at every step.
Roses for Deborah just set a new track record.
On average, for the past decade, Pennsylvania paid over $28 million a year in Breeders' Awards, restricted races, and owner bonuses. Plus, PA Bred shine on the world's biggest stage. Just 3 states have bred more Breeders' Cup winners. Learn more at pabred.com.
With some of the fullest fields in the country and quality racing year-round, there's never been a better time to reap the rewards of breeding and racing in Kentucky. Purse money in Kentucky is at an all-time high, as is average purse per race, outpacing California, Florida, and New York. Kentucky Breds. Breed them, raise them, race them. We all win.
The KTA and KTOB honored the 2024 Kentucky Bred Champions this past Saturday night. And the 2024 Broodmare of the Year should be no surprise. It's Puka, who, of course, is the dam of Mage, the Kentucky Derby winner, the dam of Dornoch, the Belmont Stakes winner, and now the dam of Santa Anita Derby runner-up Baeza, who, for my money, might be the second best 3-year-old in the country right now. Also, Torpedo Anna, added to her Eclipse Award for Horse of the Year to be the Kentucky Bred Horse of the Year as well. Other divisional honorees included Citizen Bull, Immersive, Sierra Leone, National Treasure, Idiomatic, Cogburn, She Feels Pretty, Soul of an Angel, City of Troy, and Snap Decision. Godolphin also took home more hardware. In addition to its Eclipse Award for Champion Breeder, it took home the Breeder of the Year at the Kentucky Bred Champions Dinner as well. Kentucky Breds, breed them, raise them, race them. We all win.
It's time to talk about the Kentucky Derby, but we're going to head overseas. And for that, I'll need Randy, who seems like he's overseas, even though he's in Cabo. All right, Randy, you're the expert on this. I know a little bit about Luxor Cafe, as he is the brother of Cafe Pharaoh, who I really, really liked. How good is he, and does he have a shot in the Derby after winning the UAE Derby?
By the way, konnichiwa. Zoe?
Thank you.
Yeah. So Luxor Cafe. Now, I have sort of been dubbed the Japanese guy at NBC Sports just because I happened to pick Derma Sotogake 2 years ago in the Kentucky Derby, and I sounded the alarm very loudly last year that Forever Young would be a force to be reckoned with. I actually picked Sierra Leone. I think I probably was wrong in hindsight. I think Forever Young might have been the best horse in the race. It's debatable. But they both were exceptional from Japan each of the last 2 years. So now the question is, how does Luxor Cafe stack up against those two? And I can tell you it's harder to figure because when you looked at, for example, Jockey, actually both of them, when they both ran in both Saudi Arabia in the Saudi Derby, and then they ran in the UAE Derby, and on the Saudi Cup card and on the Dubai World Cup card, there were plenty of top class American horses on both of those days that you could use as a barometer to get decent figures, as we like to do, right? Buyer speed figures, even though they're not officially published for those races. We got a pretty good idea. And it was easy to know going in how good Jockey and Forever Young actually were. I estimated Jockey in the UAE Derby ran like about a 103, 104, 105. And Forever Young in the Saudi Derby ran about a 100 when he beat Bookham Dano by about that far. Those were two outstanding racehorses. But Luxor Cafe didn't go over there. Luxor Cafe stayed in Japan. We have no American horses to try to gauge that off of. The only thing that we can use as a barometer is the UAE Derby, only because a couple of the horses that Luxor Cafe defeated 2 races back in a race called the Hyacinth Stakes in Tokyo, a horse called Admire Daytona, who we'll talk about in a second, and Don in the Mood, both ran in the UAE Derby, both ran well, but they ran 20 buyer points slower than the Dubai World Cup. Now, the Dubai World Cup, hit show, mixto, they're not Fierceness Sierra Leone. They're like second tier grade 1 horses, really, in the United States. So if you give them like the best figures they've ever gotten in their life, like 104, let's say, well, then Admire Daytona runs an 84 in the UAE Derby. And if you go back and look at the Hyacinth, that makes Luxor Cafe like about a 90 or a 91, which is not good enough, right? Just based on that data, Luxor Cafe wouldn't be good enough. But the complicating factors, though, is if you go back and watch Luxor Cafe's last race in the Kuryu Stakes at Nakayama, oh, wow. Was he visually impressive? They were going clockwise, but he blew by horses at the top of the long stretch at Nakayama and just looked so impressive coasting home. Don't know what he beat, but it looked like a much more visually impressive race than he'd ever run before. Maybe he's on the way up. Right? I'm not going to pick him. I'm not going to tout him. That means he'll probably win the Kentucky Derby, Zoe, because I'm getting off the Japan bandwagon a little bit. But this is a nice horse, and I wouldn't be surprised if he continues to improve and runs a heck of a race, because it is only a matter of time. It won't be long before one of these Japanese horses, given the way they're running internationally, wins the Kentucky Derby.
And how about Admire Daytona, trained by Yukihiro Kato? He's by DeFrong. Do we think he can even get the Derby distance?
It's a good question. It's a good question. Yeah. And he showed speed in the UAE Derby. And, you know, I'm not going to be a jockey basher or anything, but I will point out that the last time Christophe Lemaire rode a UAE Derby winner in the Kentucky Derby, he went 21-4 for the first quarter of a mile. And this horse also has speed. So I think Admire Daytona is going to add to what's already a pretty robust pace scenario in the Kentucky Derby with East Avenue and Citizen Bull and Rodriguez and whoever else you might see sprinting toward the first turn at Churchill Downs. But look, Admire Daytona, if you go, I'm going to take it step by step quickly. His last 4 races, go 4 back. Okay, they were running last November in Tokyo, and he was in against Luxor Cafe, and they hooked up at the top of the stretch, and they drew 12.5 lengths away from the rest of the field. I referenced Affirmed and Aladar. This looked like Affirmed and Aladar coming down to the wire. I mean, they were like this, just battling, and Luxor Cafe gamely kept his nose in front. But it was a great race for Admire Daytona. And then he came back and he broke his maiden, just a cakewalk. I mean, Lemaire was just never really let him get into high gear, just coasting home, and he won by 4. Then he ran against Luxor Cafe again in the Hyacinth Stakes that I referenced earlier. If you go back to YouTube and you watch that race, Admire Daytona missed the break, missed it completely. He's 5-6 lengths back, and he's a speed horse. So the fact that he was fourth, beating 3.5 lengths, you kind of maybe have to take that with a grain of salt. And then UAE Derby, he was on the engine all the way around. Basically a wire-to-wire win, just by a nose, but, showed some courage and all that. So these are both pretty decent horses, but in my opinion, not at the same level as Dermisota Gake or Forever Young were the last 2 years.
Can we touch on the Lexington real quick?
Absolutely.
Goska, I mean, he seemed to run away with it, but you mentioned East Avenue, and I thought he ran a bang-up race. He looked like he showed a little bit of fight, at least, didn't hang up the towel.
No, yeah, he did. I mean, look, those two horses from Keeneland. I mean, Goska obviously is not going to make it into the Kentucky Derby. He's probably more of a Preakness contender. But East Avenue, I mean, oh my God, was he ridden or what? The first 16th of a mile to get to the lead. Yeah, you would have to go back a long way to find a horse that was sent harder than East Avenue was to get to the front, as he was in the Bluegrass Stakes. And yet he's still hanging around the last eighth of a mile. Now, you can look at that more than one way. The way I look at it is that's a bit of an indictment for Burnham Square.
Yeah.
That East Avenue was ridden so hard to get to the lead, and still Burnham Square was life and death to get by him in the last 16th of a mile. And River Thames, it didn't look like, to me, like a 1.25 mile horse either. Yeah. But, I mean, he was game, East Avenue, and he'll be on the engine again. You know he will in the Kentucky Derby.
He'll definitely be on the engine. What kind of price do you think he'll be?
East Avenue?
Yeah.
I would say 15 to 1 or so.
Yeah, I'd say 20, but we'll see.
Yeah, 15, 20. I think that's it's a good line.
Now, Randy, obviously I'm on a break. We have a 10-day break from Santa Anita. We finished up the classic meet with significant gains in attendance and handle. It really started off from opening day. That was the third biggest opening day that they've had. All sources handled for the meet, 510 million. What else have we got? We have probably the safest track in the country right now. 0.285 fatalities per 1,000 starters. That is less than a third of the national average, which is 0.9. And I know Santa Anita and the veterinary inspection team are very proud of that fact. And really they should be, because we've made huge strides since 2019. A couple of other little factoids I can hand over to you. The final 3 days of the meet, we had over 50,000 people show up at Santa Anita with over 40 million wagered. And I think what they're really trying to show is that the single circuit, at least for now, seems to be working. The new meet will start on April the 18th through June the 15th, and that'll be basically the Hollywood meet. Purses have already gone up 10%. So it seems like things are on the up and up. I don't know how it looks from someone on the outside looking in, like yourself, Randy, but from the inside looking out, it's a big thumbs up from all of us.
Oh, and from the outside looking in, it's a big thumbs up that was desperately needed at Santa Anita, because there's no secret that, they've been struggling in the profit and loss category out there. It's just so expensive to maintain a racetrack like Santa Anita. And, you've got the added publicity about what Balencistronic and Gulfstream. Santa Anita's kind of in the same boat with how much money that property is worth. So fantastic news for Santa Anita to have the kind of meet that they had. But, you know so much more about this than I do, because you're there every day. And I know you've thought about this. Why? Why all of a sudden do you think, Zoe, that really business seemed to pick up as much as it did?
Bigger fields, field sizes, produces better handle, better wagering product, produces more people wagering, which produces more money. And that is the be all and end all. And now people are starting to come out and enjoy it. I used to go to the grocery store and people would be like, why are all those horses dying at Santa Anita? And I'm like, God, they're not just dying. Like, it would be, you didn't want to say you worked at Santa Anita, and I love working at Santa Anita.
Sure.
And now I'm very proud to say I work at Santa Anita, and people are coming out. We've done a great job of marketing things. we had the big carnival, the 5K. They're trying, and that's the best you can do in this day and age to bring people to a racetrack. And it really is the most beautiful backdrop you ever did see.
I mean, I even thought, going back to the California Crown, I mean, maybe the publicity for having the California Crown out there, might have just a little bit to do with it. Kudos to Aiden Butler and Amy Zimmerman and all these people out there, in addition to the veterinarians that work so hard, that have just made horse safety almost their singular obsession over the last few years. And the numbers show it. Peter Rotondo was involved in sort of overhauling the wagering menu and tweaking it a little bit. And then the Northern California factor. And I mean, so many different things, I guess. It's multifactorial, as they say. Probably went into that, but fantastic news that Santa Anita had the kind of meet that it did. Because like you say, I mean, the Great Race Place is an apt name, because anybody that goes to Santa Anita on a nice clear day and you see the San Gabriels back there, they just fall in love with the venue.
Can't beat it. Absolutely cannot beat it. The TDN Writers Room is brought to you by First TV. It's easy, it's free, just click on the button. It used to be XBTV, it's now First TV. It's the same stuff. All right, the winner of the Florida Derby, Tappan Street. We know it's Tappan Street because Randy called the police station on Tappan Street in Boston and asked them how they pronounce the name. So Tappan Street breezed 4 furlongs on Saturday at Payson Park in 48-2. And Randy, if you've not watched his work, I suggest you get onto First TV and have a good look, because he's now on my Derby list. He worked in company with 3-year-old stablemate Rapture, who went very well, according to trainer Brad Cox, who had him in 48-2, out in 101-3. It was a good move, executed very, very well. It was maybe even better than I expected, said Brad Cox. I didn't do a tremendous amount with him. He was under a good hold throughout. Great move, good horse. Tappan Street is, of course, expected to make his next start in the May 3rd Kentucky Derby. And Randy, when you watch this work, he's under an absolute hammerlock. Go and watch it. It's a good work.
Okay.
He's now firmly on my radar.
Okay. Do we have time for a little pseudo-comical addendum to the name pronunciation thing? With,
yes,
with
of course
Tappan
we
Street?
do.
Okay, right. So we taped this podcast a couple of weeks ago where I commented that I had called the police station and asked them for the pronunciation right. Okay. And then I had to call our producer, Sue Finley, back and ask her to edit that out of the podcast because there are 2 Tappan Streets in Boston. The Boston suburban area. There's one in Brookline, which is west of Boston, a very well-to-do suburb. And then there's one in Everett, which is north of Boston, which is where Anthony Manganero grew up. And they named this horse after Manganero. Elliot Walden tried to get the name Manganero, but it was already taken. So his grandson, Nick, suggested, let's name it after the street in which my grandfather grew up. Okay. And Nick said it was pronounced Tappan Street. So what do? I call the Everett Police Department. And I get an officer on the phone and I say, hey, NBC Sports, we got a horse running in the Kentucky Derby, name for a street there in Everett. What's the street? Tappan. Oh, Tappan Street. I said, are you 100% sure that it's Tappan Street? And he said, absolutely 100% sure that it's Tappan Street. So then at NBC, we start pronouncing it. We had a show a week later and we start pronouncing it Tappan Street. Well, then Anthony Manganero's brother reaches out to somebody and says, actually, I think it's Tappan Street. I think that's just like a Boston sort of twist on what really is the correct pronunciation, which is Tappan Street. Elliot Walden wants it to be Tappan Street. He thinks Tappan sounds a lot better than Tappan. So it's all up in the air right now. So I'm waiting to hear from Elliot Walden. You're the owner. You're the guy. You're the one that's going to decide how this horse should be pronounced. I think it's going to be Tappan Street, but I'm not absolutely positive.
All right. Well, he'll be wandering around OBS here somewhere, and I'm going to run up. I'm going to get him on camera, with my phone and be like, Elliot, and we'll play it next week. Please pronounce Tapan Tapan. Say the horse's name and say it 3 times. So we'll do that.
This horse wins the Kentucky Derby. We got to get Larry Coleman's called him. What am I going to say? How am I going to pronounce the horse?
Be a smarter better with First TV. The best horses. With thousands of exclusive morning workouts. All at your fingertips and delivered right into your inbox. Everything you need to be informed. Be smart. Bet smart. With First TV. All the thrills. Fraction of the bills. Experience the power of the partnership. Change your life, make new friends, and compete at the highest level of thoroughbred racing. West Point Thoroughbreds, the gold standard in racing partnerships. Visit westpointtb.com.
Meanwhile, TDN Writers Room is also brought to you by West Point Thoroughbreds. West Point has been very active at the OBS spring sale. You can see Zoe's background there of 2-year-olds in training. For more information, are you in Ocala or you're in Ocala?
Yeah, right? I'm in one of the little conference rooms. I would be at the Tiki Hut, but the Wi-Fi doesn't work as well out there, and it's windy.
You've been in that very room like 17 times that we've taped the podcast with you there. So anyway, West Point has been active at the OBS sale that Zoe has had for 2-year-olds in training. For more information on West Point's newcomers, you can go to its website, www.westpointtb.com. And West Point has quite a history at OBS. Sandman was an OBS March graduate, the Arkansas Derby winner back in 2024. He's in Louisville right now getting ready for the Kentucky Derby. And then this weekend, West Point will have a horse named Signator, who is a 2022 OBS April graduate. Signature will be running at Laurel in Maryland in the Henry S. Clark Stakes.
I saw Mark Cassey this morning. I asked him about Sandman. I'm like, how's he doing? He's like, it's great. It's like, I'm just mulling it over if I'm going to work him once or twice at Churchill. He's like, he'll tell me. And he just says he's just still the coolest horse to be around. So,
yeah, he'll get plenty of pace.
Yeah, plenty of pace. Well, that'll do it for myself, Randy. Many thanks to our Gainesway Guest of the Beat, Umberto Rispoli. Thanks to the team behind the camera, Sue Finley, Katie Petruniak, Anthony LaRocca, and Ali LaRocca. And Randy, what are you going to do for the rest of the day in Cabo?
Oh, man. I'm going back to the pool right now.
I'll buy you a pina colada. How about that?
Will you? Okay, now my pina colada tastes are pretty expensive, so I still owe you that wine, though. So, yeah, we'll see about that.
Yeah, I know.